Thank you, Claire, Angela, Neil, and Veronica for that really engaging conversation. It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce the founder of the Reach Alliance, Joseph Wong, to deliver closing comments. Joseph, welcome to the stage.
Thank you so much, Anita. Let me begin by expressing, on behalf of everyone, the extraordinary gratitude that we have for the Reach Alliance team and the leadership, specifically Maren, Fadumo, Filson, and Moni, for just the extraordinary work and creativity that they put into putting together this symposium this year. It's just an incredible production. And I think in terms of substance, this year's symposium is among the very best that we've ever had. And this is also due in part, and I also want to express gratitude to all of the faculty mentors from across all the universities participating in the Global Reach Alliance now here at the University of Toronto, at Tech de Monterey, at UCL, and as well as at Oxford. I'd also like to thank all of the participants in the panels and fireside chats and those who have been in the audience as well. And I know that there were nearly 400 registrants for this and from around the world. And I'm grateful to each and every one of you for your enthusiasm, your shared concern around goals of reaching the hardest to reach, and your participation. And lastly, I just want to express my thanks to all of the Reach researchers, past, present, and indeed some in the future, as I know there is a large group of prospective Reach researchers who have gathered at U of T to watch this year's symposium. Some of you will have seen yesterday I was able to preside over a panel of Reach researchers alum, and I'm sure you will all agree that they are just simply extraordinary. We've seen them participate on various panels. Just most recently, we saw Angela, who's a former student, and I worked very closely with on a research project, participating in a panel as well. The Reach researchers are just extraordinary. So grateful for your continued support for the work that we're doing. And of course, we look forward to seeing all of you again soon. The theme of this year's symposium, of course, is resilience. And several of us had long conversations about what we were going to focus this year's symposium on, and we decided on resilience. But we wanted to be very clear and very sure that we weren't just throwing the word resilience out there because it's a word that everyone uses now, but that we would actually focus the conversation on what resilience means. You know, the idea of bending but not breaking. And we wanted to go beyond simply a statement of collective recommitment. Symposia like this, where we bring together people from around the world, it is in many ways really gratifying for all of us to say we are collectively recommitting and we're going to stay resilient. As the mayor of Freetown yesterday, Mayor Aki Sawyer, pointed out, we can talk about reaching the hardest reach all we want, but it's not until we actually do something about it that's really going to matter. And so we wanted to have a conversation about resilience, not just a collective recommitment and a collective statement, but what are we going to do about it? What kinds of things can we do in terms of action? And this is where, by gathering together partners from around the world and building a network of universities, a network of researchers and faculty mentors, this year delivering 7 case studies with many more to come, we can continue together to not just talk more with one another, but that we can do more with one another. One of the really exciting things that we've seen over the past few years, actually, now that we have a large reservoir of case studies, is to start looking for cross-cutting themes, some insights that we can generate by working together, by thinking together, and indeed by doing and acting and putting into action things together. Some of these insights we're sharing now at a seminar series with Global Affairs Canada, and most recently in an article that was published in the Stanford Social Innovation Review on financial inclusion and cash transfers. We actually have a video about that. Why don't we start that video now?
This was an experiment for Reach. Up until now, we have produced a number of individual case study topics from around the world. The question that we are starting to ask now is, what can we understand and learn across a range of contexts about a particular thematic area?
The Reach mandate is to try to understand who's not getting essential services. And if we can understand how to do it with mobile money, then we can begin to understand how to do it with other development solutions.
The key insight from our case study was really seeing how these different partners and stakeholders came together. There's so many different groups, so many different contexts when you're in a place like Ethiopia, and these partnerships are sometimes rare when there's so many differences, but it made it one of the most successfully targeted social safety nets in the world.
What worked in Palestine won't necessarily work in Sudan. But what good research can give you is identify exactly why the things that worked did, so that we can decide whether or not they'd be applicable in other contexts.
It's important to identify these cross-cutting themes because you don't know if knowledge is transferable or even correct until you're exposed to more evidence. And the patterns that you find become what's helpful when you're trying to tackle problems out of samples.
What is special about the Reach Alliance is they have actually gone back and asked who is not included.
In our original research, we were really focused on these local situations, but by zooming out and getting an idea of what works across the board, it allowed us to understand how we can turn these cases into really actionable tools.
The Sustainable Development Goals tell us where we want to go, but they don't exactly tell us how we're supposed to get there.
This research is so important because it gives policymakers and practitioners a roadmap to help accelerate their achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals by providing them key insights around how to reach the hardest to reach.
So congratulations again to all of the authors, the co-authors of that terrific piece, which of course has just been published in the Stanford Social Innovation Review. It's a piece that draws on the insights that have been generated by working together. I want to take the last few minutes just to reflect on some of the things that I've heard over the last 2 days. This has been an incredible set of conversations that we've had over the last couple of days. I'm a professor, so I usually work in 2-hour segments, so I could go on for 2 hours, but I'm not going to. I'm going to try to wrap things up in just a couple of minutes. But some of the things that I've taken away from this set of conversations over the last few days would include, first of all, and we heard on day one, it's about alignment. It's about aligning the different sectors, the public sector, the private sector, civil society, nonprofits, the academy, and so forth. And not just aligning the incentives so that we are collaborating more together, but it's really about the alignment of principles, the alignment of values. And one of the things I think that's also critical is not just presupposing that this alignment occurs, but investing in the process of alignment. That alignment doesn't just naturally occur a priori, but we need to be actually engaged in a process of creating that kind of alignment. Which leads to the second thing that I think really stood out to me in terms of the conversations. It's about learning, right? So once we start thinking about a process, now we have to start really appreciating the process of learning. And I'm reminded by an observation that one of our participants made yesterday, and it's not just about learning what to do and how to do things. If we're talking about reaching the hardest to reach, it's about learning how to do things better and learning how to do things better over time. We heard both Homer and Lynn today talking about things that they learned from Operation Remote Immunity, things that were successful, the how-to, but things that we could also be doing better, i.e. the how to do better moving forward. This learning, I think, also reveals a kind of humility, a kind of modesty, the opposite of hubris. And I think one of the things that really stands out to me today in that same vein is that the question and the challenge of reaching the hardest to reach is not just an existential problem that is there. It's not just simply a challenge that requires a solution. It is fundamentally a reflection of injustice. It's fundamentally a reflection of historical injustice, of inequity, of purposive forms of marginalization and purposive forms of exclusion. So as we think about solutions, as we think about alignment, I think it's also important that we recognize it's about changing the systems. The systems were not built to deal with questions of reach. The systems, frankly, were built to exclude. So when we think about data, when we think about interventions, when we think about healthcare for all and so forth, let's think about it at a systemic level and recognizing that we can't just tinker at the margins. What we're talking about really is action towards fundamental change. Fundamental change is going to require trust. And we've heard lots and lots about trust. Trust is absolutely central to this. Trust in terms of different sectors, trusting one another, trust among us as individuals and actors, trust among organizations, and again, trust among us as individual people and agents of change. This trust is absolutely critical moving forward because it is about people, and this is how I want to end. One of the great privileges I have as being a professor is I have an opportunity to work with just incredible students, incredibly talented young people. And it's these people who are going to be building the bonds of trust moving forward. It's these people who are going to be unleashing their talents. It's these people who are taking ownership of the SDGs. As the mayor of Freetown pointed out yesterday, it's the youth that are going to inherit the challenges that we have brought on them. So let me just say in closing, I'm incredibly buoyed by what we have collectively accomplished here at Reach, but I'm more buoyed and more excited about what's to come, because we as a group have generated extraordinary insights. But most importantly, we as a group have helped cultivate, and just only, I want to be very modest here, helped cultivate a whole generation of global leaders who are not only smart, who are not only talented, who are not only accomplished, but they are principled and they are committed to ensuring that we reach those who are the hardest to reach. So let's leave with that clarion call to not only to continue to support the work we're already doing, but really to support the work of the next generation of global leaders. And with that, this year's symposium comes to a close. I wish you all well, you and your families, and I look forward to seeing you at the next symposium. Take care, everyone.